7 years too late, but it's still great to hear the mainstream media finally admit that Star Wars and The Last Jedi have left fans, and long gone by are the days when Star Wars was a franchise worth watching. Now, the mainstream, including Paul Tassi at Forbes, is declaring that Disney is watching George Lucas property in a full-blown death spiral. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the place that explains exactly what's going on with the things you love. Entertainment is our game, and we are here to explain it yet again. Coming to you from somewhere sunny USA, folks, we only ask that you click your like button as we get underway. And today we've got Paul Tassi of Forbes. He has explanations for what he has said in the past was not happening. That's the death of Star Wars. And of course, he has a remedy to fix it, but it might, well, leave you in tears. Not from sadness, but from laughing at what Paul Tassi and apparently the rest of the mainstream media believe we need to fix what they destroyed. The mainstream media is catching up with us. It took them from 2017 until 24 to finally agree, but agree they are indeed doing now. From Forbes and the always late to the party Paul Tassi, Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte, and the Disney Star Wars spiral. Now, the way I see this playing out is that the mainstream media, and by the way, we love Caroline Reed at Forbes, and there are others that we love at Forbes. Paul is, he has some gifts, and those gifts are to generate all kinds of animosity towards some of his content, and we cover that sometimes. But Paul is attempting now to give an explanation for what has happened to Star Wars. It's obvious to all of us, and we've said exactly what is happening to Star Wars now for 7 years. But Paul, now that it is so obvious that there is no defense left at all, he is making the maneuver. So let's see how he maneuvers to explain why Star Wars is in a death spiral. But do not mistake, folks, that this is the shift. The shift is happening. They're ready to toss The Last Jedi overboard. They're ready to say, this sequel sucks. Skeleton Crew is a great new addition to the Star Wars universe. So far, a stellar series full of heart, comedy, and adventure that does successfully emulate the Goonies and E.T. vibes it was going for, while also being its own thing. It also may end up being the least watched Star Wars show ever. Skeleton Crew, despite being number one on Disney Plus itself, oh, give me a break. Where did he come up with that? Come on. The Bluey's number one. And Deadpool and Wolverine is number one right now. What is
not for nothing. If there was anything bigger than it would be on the top 10. This is ridiculous.
Skeleton Crew, despite being number one on Disney Plus itself, come on, Paul, has failed to rank in wider trackers like Variety and Illuminate's weekly top 10. It did not chart either during its premiere week or its second week. Now, what I think is happening here is that Paul is confused because he believes that the Disney Plus, where it says what you should be watching or what's hot on Disney Plus, I think he believes it's real. And Jonas, you know it's not real, right?
What that he thinks it's number one? No, of course.
Right. So Disney Plus, they've put this thing up there like what's hot on Disney Plus, that list. And then we did some investigating and found out, well, it's not based on anything other than what Disney wants to promote.
Oh, so he's going off of just opening up the Disney Plus app?
That's what I think.
That's
because
it?
Otherwise, how could you be fooled into thinking it's number one on Disney Plus? Because it's not. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I just have to look this up now because, I mean, this is one of the best lies that Disney has ever come up with, and there is no asterisk on this to say, oh, we're only talking about Disney Plus produced content.
Right.
Nope,
we're only talking about the stuff we want. It's literally
right. Venom has made it onto that list, which is definitely not made by Disney. Other things have made it on. National Geographic makes it onto that list. But number one in the U.S. today, Home Alone 2. And then number 3, guys. What's number 3? Yeah.
I guessed it. I'm not even looking at it. That's so funny.
No, it's not even Lion King. It's
okay, darn.
Mufasa the Lion King, A Special Look. So they're trying to say that more people are watching a media kit thing about the Lion King than are watching Bluey on Disney Plus. Right, if you're going to lie, at least make it something that's believable.
All right, here's what we've got from here's Forbes. Here's Paul Tassi trying to make it believable, okay? Because he's got to convince his readers, because his readers are not our viewers in large part.
By the way, I'm sorry, I have to throw this one in. Skeleton Crew is actually number 10, even on Disney's list right now.
It still made the list. So Tassi he's got the task of making sure that his people who are in cognitive dissonance, his readers, that he starts to gently bring them over to Star Wars has failed territory. But he's got to do it in a way that's palatable to them and that holds on to the credibility of those in the mainstream access media who've been declaring for 7 years that The Last Jedi was a great movie, and those who hated it were Russian bots and trolls and all that. So it says Disney is now in a death spiral when it comes to what exactly to do with Star Wars. And it does not seem like they have a terribly coherent plan to emerge from it. Here's the issues. Derek, do you have your rant mode ready, sir?
I do. Yes,
okay.
I'm ready to go.
All right. Just I want you to be prepared for this. This is what Tassi says caused Disney Star Wars to die. Number 1, Disney Star Wars has mined the Skywalker era to death. Literally, as Han, Luke, and Leia all died over the course of the last trilogy, they seem to understand they need to start telling more stories outside of those linked to these characters. So, Derek, number 1, we got too much Han, Luke, and Leia. That's Tassi's number 1.
What?
Too much.
Okay.
Luke,
okay.
Leia, Derek, I'm just going to full screen you.
Okay. All right. Listen, here's the problem. And Paul Tassi and Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, nobody seems to understand. The big problem is that you did not listen to the fans when they wanted a solid Luke, a really good Luke to emerge out of the sequel trilogy. That's what they wanted. They wanted you to give them what we got back in the day when it came to these heroes. And they completely deconstructed the heroes. They ripped them down. They tore them to shreds. And now he's coming back. Oh, well, they got to get away from Han, Luke, and Leia. No, give us the Han, Luke, and Leia that we've always wanted to see emerging on the other side of Return of the Jedi. That's what fans wanted. That's the problem with Disney. They don't listen to their fan base. They don't listen to the people that actually love Star Wars. What they do is they listen to Kathleen Kennedy and whoever else is working over there at Lucasfilm. They're still trying to give us a Rey movie, for crying out loud. Who's asking for the Rey movie? They're still trying to get that. That's what these cats don't get through their thick skulls. We do not want this, okay? We want Star Wars that came from George Lucas. That's what we are looking for as the fandom. But they won't give it to us, and that's the reason why nobody's rocking with anything else that Star Wars is doing right now. The Skeleton Crew is not charting anywhere. Think about this. Bob Iger, you paid $4 billion for Star Wars, and you can't even crack the top 10 on some random Netflix shows and everything else that's jumping into the top 10. You can't even crack the top 10, and you still haven't fired this woman? Get it? Somebody explain that to me. How is this woman able to completely destroy a franchise that you paid $4 billion for and you still haven't fired her? It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I just don't.
Ready, Derek? Number 2, no one watches those shows. Again, it is no coincidence that Andor, the Acolyte, and Skeleton Crew appear to be the least watched series they've made. While Andor and Skeleton Crew take place right before or after the current era, they don't feature well-known characters, and that's enough to get people to ditch them. The Mandalorian had the benefit of a guy who looked like Boba Fett and a little dude who looked like Yoda, but even that show couldn't resist bringing in characters like Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, and even Luke Skywalker eventually. Now, somehow, it's become a movie, the only one Disney appears to be making. All right, so point 2, it's not just that we got too much Luke, Leia, and Han, Derek. We got too much characters that we know from the Star Wars universe. Derek, it looks to me, Derek, like Paul Tassi, if he was brought in to consult on Batman, right? If Warner Brothers said, hey, come in here and help with Batman, he'd say, you got to get rid of that Batman. And you got to get rid of the Joker. And everybody else anybody's ever done. You need original characters. And don't do it in Gotham. We're sending it to Tokyo, baby. And not a darn Batman character in sight. That's how we're going to save Batman.
Oh, God. That's the problem. Again, you got too many people that don't understand the franchise and what fans want out of it. Look, there's a lot of characters that they brought into the Mandalorian that probably it's a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that they did during the Mandalorian was that last episode in season 2 where Luke Skywalker came back. It seemed like it reinvigorated the entire franchise, right? All the fans were on board. Everybody was excited about that. Just seeing Luke Skywalker return to the franchise as Luke Skywalker, wrecking shop, destroying all of those battle droids. That's what people wanted. And it seems like Paul Tassi doesn't seem to understand. This is what the fans have wanted this entire time, and they just won't give it to us. And so, yeah, that's why Star Wars is struggling.
Yeah, so I think Tassi would like a movie about Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan and the lesbian space witches go on an adventure in a different galaxy. That's going to be the Paul Tassi adventure. All right,
God.
9, 3, and 4. Here we go. Number 3 from Paul Tassi is he gives the corrective measures for a franchise that he always said was fantastic until it wasn't. He's 7 years late to the party, folks. It does not matter whether the shows are good or not. I've got to pause. Sorry.
Wait, what?
That's absolutely what matters.
Did he say the quiet part out loud?
This is Andor is universally recognized as some of the finest Star Wars content ever, and yet that did not make it a viewership hit. Yes, because you can make the greatest steak in the world after you just served moldy bread. No one wants the steak. Its second season only exists because that deal was made before it even aired. The Acolyte certainly had more mixed reviews, but it was no Book of Boba Fett. Now, Skeleton Crew is highly scored, pretty non-controversial with fans, most of whom are really enjoying it, and it's the least watched thing they've ever made. Let's combine 4 together. This is his last point. Far and away, the biggest issue is that all Disney Star Wars content, Star Wars or otherwise, has an astonishing price tag attached to it. In another universe, The Acolyte could have survived had it not cost a ridiculous $180 million. A show that used a lot of practical effects and sets like Andor may have seemed cheaper. It cost $250 million. Skeleton Crew, which you might have thought was finally getting the budget in line with a smaller scale story, cost $136 million. They are simply incapable of not spending way more money than is rational on projects like this. So here's the solution from the Last Jedi damage denier. The solution? There is not really a good one, but other than putting all of Star Wars on ice for a while until people get more excited for it again, my position would be to make more movies and less shows. I want to show you this real quick. From Star Wars Stuff. It's a Star Wars account on X. 7 years on from The Last Jedi. Where do you stand? Has the movie gotten better or worse with time? It's just a friendly little question. They posted this on the anniversary of The Last Jedi opening. Worse, the movie that started the massive decline in war against real fans. There's only 6 Star Wars movies. A case can also be made for Rogue One. What movie? They made more than 6? Get out of town. Always held the same opinion. It's a great film in isolation. As a sequel and part of a larger story, it's terrible. It was literally the death of Star Wars. How does a corpse get better? It is aging poorly. I can keep going. The most disgusting crap ever made. It gave us one of the best movie villains of all time. These are the responses. Tassi knows that Tassi's time defending Star Wars is over, and the only thing they have, Derek, is they're too expensive, and we got to stop making them. That's their solution. They don't want to fix it. They don't want to admit they broke it. They just want to say, okay, well, we trashed your toys, and you don't want to play with the toys that are covered in goo now, so we just won't give you anything new. And then you'll want them back again. That's the new plan. Derek, what say you?
I mean, if you burn down a house, don't be surprised if you can't sell the house. That's basically what's happened. They've destroyed Lucasfilm. They've destroyed every property that they have over there. And the fact that they won't just admit that they got it wrong. They had it wrong this entire time when it came to what the fans wanted. The fans have been telling them this whole time. All right. Ever since 2017, ever since The Last Jedi, we have been very vocal about this isn't going to work. You're going to completely destroy this franchise. We have been very adamant about telling this franchise, Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, anybody over there that's willing to listen, this is the problem. And until you guys get it right, you're just going to continue to go down this death spiral. And only now, when the Skeleton Crew, okay, a Star Wars series can't even break into the top 10 of a chart, now they want to finally say, well, maybe they don't, they don't have everything correct. And it's absolutely mind-blowing how dense some of these people are. I feel bad for them because, look, we had it all the way this entire time, and this guy is finally waking up and realizing, I got it wrong. I was wrong this entire time. A lot of people thought that The Last Jedi would age better. You know, it's like, oh, over time, people are going to start to like it. People are going to start to see what I see. No, it's the opposite. It's getting worse. And the franchise is going right down the tubes. So until they finally wake up and admit, okay, look, we got to fire everybody. We got to clear out the story group, all right, because that's where a lot of the problems are. We got to get real fans as writers, okay? Not activists, fans, people that love the franchise. That's how you fix this. You get fans that love and cherish this franchise, and you put them in charge of the stories. Directors, you can find some directors to give their personal vision to those stories, but you have to get fans that understand the franchise first and foremost. And that means you probably just got to clear house, fire everybody, and start all the way over. That's the only way you're going to fix Star Wars. Until then, this thing is going to remain at the bottom of the ocean. And it saddens me because, again, I've always said Star Wars is the hill I die on. Out of all of my fandoms, I will die on Star Wars Hill. That's the last one where I will still hope that it gets better. But it's getting harder and harder with each and every series, movie. I'm not looking forward to anything that's coming, with the exception of Andor. Outside of that, I'm not looking forward to anything else that's coming out of Star Wars. So, listen, Paul Tassi can say whatever he wants to say at this point. He's been wrong this whole time. He's wrong now. He's still wrong. All right. You got to go back and listen to the fans. The fans have been telling you exactly what you need to do.
So I want to go to Marvin real quick on this one. Marvin, I think that what Tassi and the rest of this crew out there is doing is that the era of X is here. The era of free discourse is back in the digital town square. And their strategy before, for the past 5 of the 7 years was, oh, you don't like the movie? Okay, well, you're a Russian bot and a troll, and we'll kick you off Rotten Tomatoes, and we'll make sure your voice is never heard. Their strategy was, oh, you want to say negative things about this on X? Well, fine, because it was Twitter then. Fine, we're going to delete you from Twitter. You want to post a YouTube video that, derides this? Fine, we're going to put you in this special camp of people that we can't stand, and we're going to make fun of you and mock you. And now that the vast majority are revealed to have been behind disliking The Last Jedi, and now that they can't shut them up through their gatekeeping strategies, now they have to contend with it. And the only way they can contend with it is to say, no more then. We won't fix your toys. You just don't get any more. No more toys for you. You can't play anymore with Star Wars.
It's simple self-preservation at this point for these people. They understand that the only way they stay relevant now, the people have taken back power in the entertainment world. We are no longer in that situation where the studios dictate all discourse. Thanks to Elon and thanks to X, free speech has made a comeback, and people's voices are, people are going to their peers for reviews on things instead of people like Paul Tassi. So Paul Tassi and people of his ilk realize that they have to change their rhetoric or get left in the dust. They're not respected or trusted voices anymore, and they're trying to change that. But I think it's too little, too late. Like they were all in on the Empire. It's like Grand Moff Tarkin suddenly turning around and being like, man, this Empire thing, Death Stars, who asked for that? Like, it's 100% them trying to turn away from the wagon they hitched themselves to, but the wagon they need to hitch to is already way down the road.
Any thoughts, Ron, Jonas, on this topic?
I would tell you okay, so I really wanted to join you guys last week for the after watch party for Skeleton Crew, and I tried so hard to watch this thing, and I can't. I don't know what anybody sees in it. Maybe it gets good after a while, but I'm sorry, Star Wars taking place in what looks like any American suburb with some Star Wars technology was weird to me. I couldn't get behind it. So I just don't know what they're doing. Plus, I would have to disagree 100% with Tassi. I think what Star Wars fans actually want is more Luke, Leia, Han, and the Skywalker saga, that arrow. I would love to know what the heck happened between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens with Han, Luke, and Leia specifically. That they could make those stories, they could recast the roles and actually give us the stories. But this extraneous stuff, to me, this is like, I don't know. It's just bizarre, because I also was an absolute Star Wars fan and loved it. And then the new movies came out, and do you have any idea? I was so excited for the fact that new movies were coming out in 2015. And then I was at the end of Force Awakens. I could not believe I did not see Han, Luke, and Leia on the screen together. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? What is Disney doing with Star Wars? And I was immediately at the end of that movie in 2015 worried they're going down the wrong road. And I was right back then. And they've just followed suit ever since. The only thing, in my opinion, that has been halfway decent Star Wars was The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and Andor, and everything else has just been just a lost cause. And then like in the parks, Galaxy's Edge, it's so much worse than Star Wars Weekends. It's like everything Star Wars is going downhill, and it's like they're kicking dirt in the face of the fans. I don't know. I don't get it. To me, there's no toxic fandom. There is toxic creators. That's what it's. Why nobody says it, but it's the creators that are toxic right now, not the fandom.
They pushed an agenda, man. They pushed their agenda above the franchise. The agenda became the most important thing. Whatever Kathleen Kennedy thought she was doing. Oh, I'm going to push, X amount of people have to be women. It's again, I have nothing against women, but that shouldn't be the reason that you're doing things. It's like, hey, I need fans. I need people that are good writers, good directors, like the whole concept of feminism and trying to force that into a male franchise, a male-centered franchise, or one that guys have, been mostly, the customers of, I mean, Chris Gore made that point. Turning Star Wars from a boy brand into a girl brand will be one of the costliest decisions that Disney has ever made. And it's starting to show. I mean, it's already shown, but it's now even Paul Tassi has to recognize, okay, yeah, this really isn't working anymore. We're off the rails. We're off the reservation at this point.
Yeah, Derek, one thing I mentioned in my video this morning, because I was talking about the Skeleton Crew stuff, is the first thing that Emperor Palpatine does once he takes over the Republic is he remade the galaxy in his own image. And that's exactly what she has done with Star Wars. She is the Fempire. It like the name that I gave her, as the Fempire, it's so apropos. And that makes, the people right now that speak out against this, us here, the Friday Night Tights crew, the Film Threat guys, every creator out there that dares to dissent is the modern day Rebel Alliance, kind of pushing back against this oppressive regime that has come out here and just in a sweeping, movement, undone everything that was once good about the galaxy.
Yep.
I'll tell you guys this. To speak into just how popular Star Wars was when it started back up again in 2015, I remember driving on the interstate to the theater. And I went through a construction area that had those digital signs that they can update, to let you know if traffic's moving slowly. All the digital signs in the interstate's construction zone said, "May the Force be with you."
Oh, wow.
That's how popular, that's how excited people were. And now this cannot get onto streaming. It's really something. It's something sad, truly. But that's where Star Wars is. And Tassi, I think, is late to the party to explain why and what the fix is. I think the folks out there like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, the people who have been there forever in this space, saying that this needs to be fixed, they're the ones to offer the solution now. It's always sad when one of these video ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land. 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels. That Park Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place. And go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.